listening to the Ice Prep Podcast. Here's your hosts, Brian and Pat.
Hello, Brian.
Oh, hello. So this is the second, technically the third, second attempt at starting this episode. We were having a great chat, and I looked at my setup and went, I can't see Pat's levels recording in, so had to stop Pat mid-sentence. There is one thing. We will talk what we were talking about. I do want to see the cup again, because we started it off. Pat's got his cup. For those watching, all the Western Conference teams. It's kind of a cool cup.
Yeah, I got Slurpees in it, and I specifically went out and tried to find as many of these cups as I could. I found 2. So... yeah, it's fun. It's just the Western Conference, Pacific. It's fun. I like it. I have another one that I bring to work because
that one has the abs on it.
Yeah, and I don't want to drink water out of a mug. There's just something weird about drinking water out of a mug. Is that just me? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I keep a water bottle at work full time. Like, if I'm gonna drink water out of a mug, it's got to be like, I'm just drinking hot water today because I'm not feeling the best.
Yeah, like it has to be hot, and when you just have like tap water or like something out of like a faucet or whatever, it's weird. It's a little weird to have just water in a mug. I don't know. That's just me.
But mason jar cups, no problem. I use those all the time. So
right?
What a weird. We're off to a great start this time, Pat.
Mugs.
What we were talking about. And we will do this one again, is Marner did what everybody wanted him to do. He was on that 20-game point streak. The Leafs stopped the 18-game point streak against Dallas with a shutout last game. Against the Kings, the Leafs...
not against Dallas.
Jason Robertson.
Jason,
he had the streak going. Yeah. We'll get to that Robertson here shortly. But Marner, angriest goal I've ever seen him score in my life. It wasn't an assist. Like, Marner got this 21 game point streak with the angriest shot I have ever seen him shoot.
Yeah, so the typical Mitch Marner slap shot that he is known for. He just willed that puck through because it went off of quick. Like, it didn't go directly in. So he just was like, nope, I'm getting this point, and I do not care if anybody gets hurt.
Quick was made of Swiss cheese in that game, though. Leafs scoring 3 goals on 3 shots in 1 minute 6. Like, I mean, that's just how it goes. Some nights.
Were good. Like, some of the goals, you look at them and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that was definitely. I can see why he couldn't stop that one.
He wasn't quite quick enough.
God, that poor man has probably had to deal with awful puns like that his whole life, and you just keep digging.
If you were to ever hear this, then you are just wasting your time. Quick, you've got better things to do than to listen to us.
Yeah, like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on.
He's listening in. He's like, I love this podcast. He hears himself being made fun of, and he's like, well, this wasn't a good day. Because that's how it'll go.
I will eat an entire one of the hats that are behind me if Jonathan Quick is listening to this podcast.
I'm going to find a random person named Jonathan Quick who's not the goaltender and be like, send Pat a message being like, I love you guys.
No.
Pat didn't specify. Yeah.
Mitch Marner. Points.
And the reason, like, we talk up Marner all the time. Even long before this podcast existed, we were of the, why do the Leafs want to trade him? Please trade him to my team. It would have been so much fun.
Mm-hmm. To any of the teams, like, just anywhere else. If the Leafs fans didn't want him, just fine. Let him thrive somewhere else. Because one thing that I said last season, and I still kind of hold true, and finally, I actually just heard it on the Leafs broadcast the other day, or was it Leafs broadcast? I don't know. Something I was listening to. And they pretty much just said because of Austin Matthews, he doesn't get this all-star praise because Matthews is always up here and Marner is just below him. But Marner is performing at a more consistent and fantastic rate. Holy crap. When he is like in the offensive zone, in the defensive zone, that kid is just doing everything. He has decided that he is going to win the cup, not the Toronto Maple Leafs. He wants to win the cup, and he will force that team to just whichever team. He could have been on Arizona and they would be still in this. Like, that's how badly he wants to do
People
this.
forget that he is a insanely rare breed in the NHL of a superstar who penalty kills.
Yeah.
Like, there aren't many legitimate superstars in the league that are on the penalty kill. Like, the shorthanded goals and plays that he makes all the time, it's amazing that his minutes on ice aren't actually higher. And this is something that is so fun to watch as a not Leafs fan. I feel like you're probably in the same boat. Who the Leafs media is so interesting, and everything is going so well right now that they are struggling to find things to like get angry and upset about. And they're just trying to pull out whatever they can, and they've got nothing right now. Like they tried to default back to being like, well, Nylander's bad, and then Nylander is playing amazing, and they can't go back to the classic of, well, Marner's overpaid. Oh, he's he's got points in 21 straight games. John Tavares, oh, he's on pace to score another like 40 plus goals. And I don't say anything about Matthews ever because they're worried that he's just going to go to the desert in 2 years. But hockey is more fun when the Leafs are good.
Yeah.
But it also, at
hockey's
least,
more fun. Hockey media
Yes.
isn't, because then the stories they're coming up with, you're like, really?
but the
Okay.
nice thing is that even though the Leafs are the third team to hit 40 points this year now, I believe, Leaf fans, unlike years past, they still seem to think that their team is like at 26, 27 points, like way back in, because of how it started, because of everything with the new goaltenders coming in this year. And remember the first 10 games of the season? Everybody thought Dubas and Keefe were going to be fired. I mean, I'm not one to talk. My fan base, literally home opener, were chanting to fire the coach before the Devils went on a ridiculous spree after that. But, I mean, everybody had the Leafs being a top team this year. That's crazy to look and see that, yeah, they're up there now after the way they started. It's kind of like watching the Avs of last year, that slow start, and then look out, here they come. And, I mean, they've proven that they're beating the top teams in the league, too.
Yeah, and a lot of the time it's finding the groove, it's finding the pairings, and this is what we talked about at the start of the season. When you bring on new people, like with them, they were trying to figure out their third and fourth line. They were trying to figure out their defensive pairings. They were trying to find the rhythm. And it's the same with every single team that's on here except for Boston. It is like they all needed to find their groove again. They needed to, like how Stella got her groove back this hockey game. So it's just time, and it takes a bit of time. And like Colorado last year is a great example of that too. Like they brought on a bunch of new faces. They had to shimmy things around, and they had emerging stars that they needed to be like, oh, wait a minute. Like you look into Chushkin, he had a career year, and they were like, okay, you're third line? No. Okay, maybe your second line. Oh, wait a minute, maybe your first line. Like they have to figure these things out. They have to find the right fit. And Toronto has they played around with lines, they played around with pairings, and it's starting to click, and it shows.
Which is funny saying they're playing around with pairings because TJ Brody was back for the Leafs in their game against LA, but they're down like all of their mainstays. It's like Giordano and Hall are keeping the team afloat, but we mentioned this before in that this is the best thing that could have happened to the Leafs because it forced the forward group to finally play proper defensive. Like you watch them play now, and hopefully this mentality sticks around when players like Riley come back, because I don't think Marner has always been one to come back and play the defensive end. I have not seen Matthews be this defensively responsible, like the entire team, because they know there's not somebody back there who's going to cover for my mistakes. Mind you, Matt Murray and Samsonov are playing out of their minds right now, so they do have that. But that is that's a style that gets you further in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
If your whole thing is just go this way, you're eventually going to get Edmonton Oilered out of the playoffs
I was
because
just
there's
gonna
a team
say
that can do
sounds like that.
both ways. I mean, it got them to the third round, but they ran into a team that was like, we can play just as fast and we can come back and defend.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's weird to see that from the Leafs. I know we're 10 minutes talking about it, and normally, but I was a doubter, especially when I saw the game where the Devils had 3 goals called back. But thinking back now, the Leafs a few games before that and continuing, they're scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, they look really friggin' good.
The most talked about team in the league is not the Leafs, and they're probably the best team right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also want to look at some of the other teams that are on the top 10, I suppose, in the last 10. So, like, looking at the last 10 games played, one of my favorite sites to look at stats is StatsMuse or StatMuse.
I'll pull it
found
up
when
so people can see.
Perfect. I'm going to continue to ramble while you do so.
It's there.
I found it while I was poking around for NBA numbers, and I was like, I wonder if they do NHL. Surprise, surprise, they do. So if you look at the last 10, when it comes to points, obviously Boston, New Jersey, they're killing it. Toronto, they're also up there. But then all of a sudden, you've got Pittsburgh, which remember how everyone was like, wow, they're washed, they're done, it's over. And suddenly they're tied for first in the last 10?
Look at that penalty kill percent. That's disgusting. 92.9. Well, everybody thought, yeah, Pittsburgh, the ride's over. And everybody forgot a very simple fact. The ride is not over as long as Sidney Crosby is in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
he can will wins. That's it. Like, he'll put the team on his back, whether it's by assisting or putting up points himself or just being the leader that the team needs. And this is coming from a person that's not a huge fan of Crosby. He's fantastic at what he does. He truly is. And there's a reason why everyone still talks about him to this day as one of the top 5 players in the league. But like the shocking ones are like Seattle and Detroit, and like Tampa is like not that good in comparison to some of these teams. And then right tied with Tampa are the Vancouver Canucks
and the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, Vancouver, like that was
what?
And here's the fun thing. So, saw this one earlier today with the Canucks in all of this, everything that's going on. There is a very high likelihood that Brock Besser and Bo Horvat are shopped out. Like, they're shipped out, which is like we talked about, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? We went in depth about Bo Horvat and where we think he might end up and what we think he's going to make.
Mm-hmm.
If Vancouver gets rid of Bo Horvat, that 7-3 is a 3-7. Like,
oh yeah, like he's the only reason why they're still in it.
Well, they're getting playing finally from all around, but like if you look, the big issue for the Vancouver Canucks is they're only at a 3-goal differential in their last 10 games.
Yeah.
And the further you scroll up on this list, aside from, well, Seattle, because there's been 77 goals in their last 10 games because they're just ridiculous. But, like, look at the top teams. The differential on Boston, on New Jersey, on Pittsburgh, on Toronto. Like, you can put Detroit in that one as well. That shows you that it's not like a flash in the pan type thing. It's legit. And
for those that aren't watching,
yes, sorry, they're more than like 3 or 4 goal differential for the team. It's like 5, 10, 15, 21 if you're Boston. So
well, look at Toronto. Their last 2 games, shutouts. Like, what?
That's
Toronto
against Dallas, which nobody saw that coming. Dallas is one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and against LA, who is one of the highest scoring teams in the league. This is not the Leafs team of old that we've seen. And
I do want to say, though, with Vancouver. So,
okay, would you want to
since
talk Vancouver?
all of a sudden, Vancouver's on a heater. So they are 7-3-0 in their last 10. So they have 14 points in their last 10 games. Not bad. Pedersen or Peterson? Pedersen? Elias Pedersen?
He's killing it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 34 points this season, and they've played 27 games. And all anyone can talk about is Bo Horvat, including us, and Brock Besser. It's like the two polar opposites of when's Besser going to start performing, and why is Bo Horvat playing so well? He's what we thought Brock Besser would be. And it's, I don't know, this team, it feels like it feels like a roller coaster. Like, I wouldn't honestly, in the next 10 games, I would not be shocked if the numbers swapped and they were 3 wins, 7 losses, because there's nothing that makes sense. Because Thatcher Demko's out and they're winning more games with him on IR. What is happening?
Do you know what else nobody's talking about? The fact that Quinn Hughes is 7th in the league, tied for 6th in the league for assists right now. He is having the quietest 25 assist season.
I mean, he's also the quietest looking man in the world.
Well, when you've got both of his brothers who are a lot more just kind of crazy. Like, how is Quinn Hughes 23 games in with 25 assists being 25 points because he hasn't scored a goal yet, something that more people aren't talking about?
It's because he hasn't scored a goal. That's like, plain and simple, when it comes to the NHL, people don't particularly care. Like, people were kind of like a little bit like, I was seeing some things online of people being like, well, McKinnon's not doing that great this year, before obviously he got injured. But people were saying like, oh, you know, he only has like 2 goals. It's like, yeah, he has like 25 assists. What are you talking about? He only has 2 goals. Like, he's literally been first assist on 20 of the 25 points he's put up. Are you kidding me?
People
don't value it.
With McKinnon as well, how much of, because you see the flashy plays for him, that's what makes the highlight reels all the time. People forget that his playmaking ability is unbelievable. It's why
His shot for rebound ability is amazing.
It's why we're so robbed that we haven't seen him and McDavid on a line for Team Canada. Like, let's not get into that, because that will just ruin both of our nights. But like, there's players like that in the NHL, and Vancouver's got a few of them right now. And as you said, like, I feel like everybody's watching Vancouver right now just being like, okay, so when does it fall out from underneath them this time? This could continue. They could keep on a 700 pace for the rest of the season. And every single fan base, including their own, is going to be watching going, okay, so when does the floor come out from underneath them? Because there's so much hanging over this team right now. Like, off-ice scandals with the ownership group and potential legal charges to Besser, who was supposed to be the superstar for the team, looking like he's going to be shipped off because he's had a lot of issues in his real life outside of hockey and injuries. And your captain, who is most likely going to walk or be traded. I legitimately should look this up. Has a team, I guess New Jersey traded Andy Green when he was captain to the Islanders, but I don't know if a team has ever traded their top like goal scorer at a deadline before.
If a team has done, it wouldn't surprise me if Vegas did that, because let's be honest, that's kind of Vegas's thing. They're just like, you did amazing, but bye. Because we don't have enough money.
But like, just think about that. There's the chance that the highest point player on Vancouver could be traded away. And that is supposed to be a winning strategy. Am I taking crazy pills that, like, this isn't being something that everybody's like, why is Vancouver talking about this? Just keep him as an own rental then. If you think you're going to make the playoffs, just straight up go to him and be like, we don't want you back next year. do whatever you want. Like,
Yeah.
go wherever you want. We'll give you the freedom to talk to whoever you want. Just keep
Make
scoring
your money.
goals. Make all the money in the world. Get us a cup. Doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
but I think we all know there's going to be so much drama associated with this for no reason.
Well, the reason is because
They
they
j-
put their money into JT Miller they invested in the wrong person, plain and simple. JT Miller, I mean, yeah, he's still putting up points. It's not like he's having a bad season, but
He is
he's
the
just
most defensive failure of a player I've ever seen. He has more controller disconnecting moments than anybody I have ever seen. It is
like
unbelievable.
the lack of anything that he does when in the defensive zone. I don't understand why he doesn't have more ice time because like he's not using any energy. He's just standing around. Like he should be able to skate the whole game. He's useless on one side, but man, get him in the offensive zone. You can put the puck in the net. But like that contract, that should have been to Besser or not to Besser. Sorry, to Horvat. That is a monstrous overpayment for a guy for way too long, and no one's gonna want him.
They had the chance to sell high, and instead they bought high, which
Yeah.
it's like we've mentioned it before. There's a reason why Tampa got rid of a player like this that like looked very good. Why does a team that is going on 2 cup runs, wins back-to-back cups, 3 finals, why are they getting rid of a player like this? And
Yeah.
we're seeing it. Somebody else. Yep. Go
I
ahead.
just want to point out one last thing with the Canucks here. They are currently, as of recording this, tied points wise with the reigning Stanley Cup champions, the Colorado Avalanche. They are both sitting at 27 points. Granted, Colorado has 3 games in hand, so they're technically in better position. But if Vancouver wins their next game, that puts them over top of Colorado because there's no way Colorado is going to win their next game. And also then would technically tie them with Calgary if Calgary loses and puts them in a wild card spot in theory. So they are that close to being in the wild card race. And we were saying, well, at least Bedard's getting to play for his home team. Like, no. Now all of a sudden I'm going, well, we win a cup one year and then we get Bedard the next. We are literally the Montreal Canadiens, except for we're going to be successful and actually win the cup and then win the lottery.
I mean, the biggest thing with the Avs, we can talk about this a little bit here, is the difference between the Avs and the Vancouver Canucks is something like, I don't know, 100+ differential in games lost to injury. Your top line for one of the games literally included one of your top 6 forwards and like Makar. That was it. Like it's
Alex Galchenyuk, who was then after that game sent to the Colorado Eagles, was a top, at least in the top 2 of the forward line, which is yikes. There were people in the top line that I was like, I have never heard of this name before. Oh, he was a waiver wire claim? Cool. It's so bad right now. It is so bad. I watched those games and actually, I'm lying. I haven't watched any of those games because I don't want to watch that. If I wanted to watch a Colorado Eagles game, I would be tuning into a Colorado Eagles game. There was a photo of a fan that was at ice level during warmups, and they had a sign that said "Let's go Eagles," because there's a majority of the AHL team is playing for the NHL team. And Boston fans are like, yeah, man, we took down the reigning Stanley Cup champs. It's like, no, you didn't. You took down a farm team. What are you talking about? You took down a farm team with Rantanen and Makar in it. That's just, no, it just doesn't work. Oh my God. Ugh.
Yeah, it's the Avs, they'll be fine. They're starting to get players back. Obviously, not McKinnon. He'll be out for an extended period of time. But the Avs, even with all of this, I know you're like, hey, we can go for Bedard. You're what?
It's a joke.
You're
I'm not.
1 point out of a playoff spot. You're still a
Yeah,
positive
they're fine.
record. Like you'll make it no problem. And as long as you guys ramp up going into the playoffs, it will be no problem at all.
Yeah, and like if they miss it too, it like plain and simple, okay, yeah, they were missing literally everyone that they're paying. Like, of course they're not going to do well. That's what happened to Vegas. All
Yeah.
of their people were injured and they couldn't make it. And it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
And then
But
look
like,
at Vegas this year. All their players are there, and they're what, 4th place in the league right now.
yeah, exactly. So like, I don't know. I know that like I'm less jaded about it because they did win the cup. Like plain and simple, I know that like it's very real. I have a completely different outlook on this season like in comparison to last year. But Jesse Montano, he follows and reports on the Colorado Avalanche. He's one of my favorite follows on Twitter. So he just said that Val Nichushkin, he is wearing a white jersey at practice, which means Big Val should be back in the lineup soon. He also said Arturi Lehkonen, he's on ice, no contact jersey. He's in concussion protocol, but things are looking good. He might be coming back soon. Curtis McDermott, he's not really a big time name for the team, but at the same time, he's really helpful. He's also working on some skills. He's not really practicing with the team, but he is still oot and a boot. And this one was a bit shocking. Landeskog. Landeskog is out there with the skills coach, not doing anything heavy or anything. Again, not at practice, but he's been practicing, just like on his own.
Hey,
And the
that's
one that's
good to see.
That's really good to see. The one that's a little heartbreaking. Bowen Byram is still sitting on the bench. He was watching the workouts, but he was sitting in workout gear. So, that kid's had a really, really, really rough go. I'd really love to see nothing else happen to him and just be able to
no kidding.
play his friggin' career. But it's just that, unfortunately, much like Nick Robertson getting injured again tonight, it just doesn't seem to be in his cards right now. So hopefully speedy recoveries for Nicky Bob as well as Byram. I hope that I hope they get healthy again.
And some great players' careers kind of start that way. It's just the way that it goes. We were talking stat leaders earlier. There is one that did want to bring up because even if you don't really follow hockey, which if you're listening to this, I don't. Thanks, I guess. But like,
why are you here?
Like, Tage Thompson was everywhere because he decided that if he played for a Canadian team out west, he would have just won somebody $1 million. That would be 5 goals in a game. He did the natural hat trick in the first, scored 4 goals in the first period, which is ridiculous. Buffalo, won that game
4 goals
9-3?
and an assist.
Yes, he had a 5-point period. Gets the 5th goal. Everybody was like, come on, double hat trick. He was close. Like that contract, oh my God, that is probably your Patstradamus like claim from the beginning of the year that I don't think can be topped unless he just like gets injured and he's gone for the rest of the season. That's like
Even
the only
still.
way. Yeah, it should be like, hey, it was like a quarter of the season, more than a quarter. Look at him go.
Yeah. And you know what? I am all on that Tage train. Good for him. The guy is a giant and he has a hell of a shot. He's got speed. He's a unicorn. That's the term that was tossed around so much. Jay Fresh on Twitter, he was calling him a unicorn as well because he looked at the stats from years back and he was just like, he doesn't look good. The stats are saying he's not looking great. And then he just said, never mind. I remember how to play hockey. And then just did all of this. And all of a sudden is now one of the best performing hockey players in the league. And he said straight up, it's a unicorn situation. This just does not happen to go from potential 4th liner to like superstar.
Well, when that contract was signed, there was not a single person on hockey Twitter who was like, that's a good deal. Everybody was like, oh my God, And it literally took like 5 games into the season, and everybody was like, "Oh, yeah, this isn't going to be like a oh yeah yeah." So it's so much fun to watch. The only thing that's unfortunate is looking right now. 1, 2, 3. They have to leapfrog 4 teams to stand a chance of making it into the playoffs right now. That's a problem. Um, yeah, Buffalo might have the most goals scored by any team in the league right now, but the downside to that is that they are what 7th in the league for goals against. They've allowed 96. The best team in the league has only allowed 53. So that's a problem.
Well, they have
They
a
haven't
goaltender that's like he's 40 something. He's literally in his 40s, and nothing against people in their 40s. I have a lot of friends that are in their 40s. They're not hockey players.
Goaltenders can do that. It's like baseball. There's pitchers. Some of the best pitchers are still old. He has his moments, but the fact that the Buffalo Sabres haven't gotten a goalie, like, don't wait till the trade deadline. Like, acquire somebody now. If that doesn't work out in your, like, trial period running into February, ship him off again and get somebody else new. Like,
I have a prediction.
okay.
I think they're going to go after Karel Vejmelka. I think they're going to try and get the goaltender from Arizona because he is currently playing out of his mind good in the worst situation. He is putting up, he may not have the best, when you look at the sheet stats, it doesn't look great, but his underlying stats are showing that he is one of the better goaltenders in the league. He's just on a terrible team. I think that unless there's talks with Arizona and he's like, you know what? I want to see this team. I want to be the goaltender that leads this team forward. I feel like he might be like, trade me somewhere. And for some reason, I think Buffalo is going to be a suitor because he's going to be a hot ticket. He is going to be well sought after. Yet again, another goalie from Arizona that people are going to want. I feel like that'll be a thing. I don't know why, but I think that'll be a thing.
Vejmelka's got he's 3 years left till he's a UFA. So next year after, you include this year, so that's 3 years. 2.725 million AAV. Buffalo owns their own first, their own second, Philly's second, and Vegas's second. Because there's control for the team. But is this a year where you're Buffalo? Do you risk the first? Well, you'd have to lottery protect it, but you have to. If you're Buffalo, you can't not lottery top 5 protect your first round pick to trade away. Because what if you don't make the playoffs, you win the lottery, and then suddenly you don't get Bedard? I wonder if seeing this, it would probably be the 2023 first and something else. There's too much. There's 3 UFA years. Control.
Well, what I'm thinking is that, like you just said, they have 3 second-round picks. So why would they not package the high-value second-round pick of Philly and the low-value, or maybe even medium value of their own? So 2 second-round picks, because it's going to be a deep year. There's going to be a lot of really good talent.
That's why Arizona would want a second pick in the first, I would think.
Yes, but even in the second round, there's going to be a lot of really good talent. Like there seems to be a pretty deep pool this year. So if that's the case, 2 second-round picks and, like, I don't know, one of their goaltenders, like, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen,
if they do that, then they really have to get him because he's on an emergency call-up right now because their other goalie is injured. And then, obviously, they have the contract to Ben Bishop, who doesn't play anymore.
Well, I mean, that could also help Arizona as well. That gives them even more space, and they could bring on some bigger names at the trade deadline if they wanted to and really start to build for next year because people are going to be looking to tank. So then they could bring on people like Jonathan Taves, for instance. he wouldn't want to go there most likely, but I can't imagine that he put him on his no trade list if it's only 6.
Yeah, looking at this, I wonder if that will be something soon. And I think either the Buffalo and Philly second or the Buffalo first. And then maybe a warm body, because I don't know if Arizona needs the contracts. Nope, they don't really need to worry about contracts. They've got the roster side. Well, they need a
They need a goalie, and they need one that's going to be able to take them in the next couple years.
Buffalo would have to send a body because they are at their full roster size. So, but
well, I mean, I can't imagine them getting something for free. Like, just, hey, here's 2 picks for a goalie. No, they wouldn't do that because goalies are so sought after, especially one of his caliber. I can't imagine them wanting to trade it first, but 2 seconds and potentially someone decent.
if the Buffalo Sabres aren't talking with Arizona about this, then because there has to be other teams knocking on Arizona's door about this goaltender.
Yeah, for sure.
Arizona has become the place for goaltenders to go for a year or two and just end up getting paid afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the Buffalo one is interesting, and the fact that they've got those extra seconds. Before we forget, send yourself a note on that, because you could top your Tage Thompson thing if this were to happen. And honestly, kind of want to see it, but if they do, they have to do it soon. They can't dip any further. And the issue for Buffalo is, if you look at who's ahead of them in the East, none of the top teams are slowing down.
No, and I don't think that this would be a play for this year, because they're still they're going to want to pull in talent, and they're probably going to hope that they win the lottery, or maybe not win, but at least move up, because if you don't get Bedard, you're still going to get someone fantastic. I can't think of any of the names off the top of my head, but I've been following a lot of people that follow the prospects, and my goodness, there's a new name of he's putting up something like 47 points in 21 games. It's like, what the hell is going on? And it's like, he's only 19 points behind Connor Bedard, who's put up 4,000 points. So it's going to be a good year regardless. So I think that it's a win-win situation for them if they pull in a goalie that has 2 more years that is performing really well. That is a weak spot. They can maybe shore up their defense a little bit more instead of having to rely on someone like Lyubushkin. Nothing against him. He's injured right now, but even still, he's not really a top-tier defenseman. He's good, but not that good. Maybe even Peyton Krebs goes in return. He's a good player, but again, it's not a painful loss. There's something there, and I don't know, my gut's saying that Buffalo goes after him.
I think if they do, then it's definitely they're going to push for a playoff spot, because it's a logjam at the top. They're 6 points back of Detroit at this time, who is the team that sits in that second wild card spot.
Maybe it's a trade deadline move then, or not trade deadline, draft day move then.
Yeah, I don't think that he would last that long in Arizona. I think he will be traded before the trade deadline, especially now that you mention it. There's teams that need it. There are good teams that are in dire need of it. So, I mean, Edmonton always needs another goaltender, considering they've only got one good one right now. And the biggest issue for Edmonton as well. Yeah, they've scored 97 goals. They've let in 95.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, it goes back to what we were saying last year. There's only so much McDavid can do. There's only so much that Draisaitl can do. Look at Puljujarvi. I heard somebody saying Puljujarvi looks like a really good project for the Avalanche, and I was just like, oh my god, please get him on the Avalanche. That's that's a Lehkonen, that's a Nichushkin vibe. Oh my goodness!
If he's being traded from the Oilers, I think the stipulation would be he can't be in the West.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a few of those out there, and there may not be teams in the East that can do it. That play. I hate looking at stats and stuff when we're live recording, but it's even Calgary. they're +2 goal differential right now. They should get things figured out. Markstrom himself, like, he has said, I am playing bad. He didn't use that word, hockey.
Yep.
Like, Minnesota, they're going to collapse. They're almost identical stat-wise to Calgary right now. That is currently Colorado's easy way to move up. But both the East and the West, the logjam is so fun. Like, there's 4 outlier teams now. And aside from that, like, what a crazy, we'll call it, first 25 games of the year to start. There is so much here that is like, I did not see that coming. Oh, I did not expect that. And then poor Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus and Colorado are kind of in the same boat of, oh God, everything is broken. All of our people are broken. What are we going to do? And then, like, one player is healthy that you're like, come on, Johnny Gaudreau, you can do it.
He's playing well.
Yeah, it's a good thing he didn't go to New Jersey. I don't think that, who knows what was going to happen there. Gross. Ugh. How's New Jersey doing?
I think pretty well. I think.
So.
Yeah. I think from there, Pat, you should get your cell phone ready here for us.
It's already ready.
Okay.
I was prepped. Here we go. It is time for... I added some more flair into that one. The games of the week.
Now, unfortunately, neither of us guessed the absolute game of the week. I had last week.
Yeah.
I nailed last week.
The week before.
We already talked about, obviously,
Seattle. Gross.
We already talked about Tage Thompson's 5-goal performance. Instead, we'll start with mine, I guess. I went with the Battle of the Yzerman, which I don't remember when that one took place, if I'm being honest.
That was Tuesday, December 6th at 7 p.m., and Detroit won 4-2 over Tampa.
With 3 goal scorers that nobody really expected. It wasn't like the big guys getting it done, which is, if you're Detroit, that's the way that kind of Yzerman builds his teams. Because, even in Tampa, all those superstars, it was always kind of like, well, he wasn't a superstar at that point. Like Point, you'd be like, oh, wow, Braden Point scored again.
Killorn, who's that?
And as I said, Ville Husso gets the win over Vasilevsky. I still think that might have, it's quietly one of the best goaltender pickups in the offseason. And don't be surprised if, as the season goes on, we hear more and more about that.
Yeah, but Binnington. If Binnington was healthy, St. Louis would have made it to the Stanley Cup. No. Ville Husso is the better of the two.
Everybody knew it.
Yeah, except for the diehard St. Louis
Binnington does like two of three things. He goes on ridiculous win streaks, and then he loses and tries to fight everybody. Let's not, because he doesn't deserve the time of day with his antics.
He doesn't deserve any breath from us.
We're talking games of the week. Pat, yours?
Yeah, we're talking about hockey and not a clown show. So my game of the week was the Mitch Marner will he, won't he? And that was Toronto versus Toronto. I went deep Toronto there.
You went full Don Cherry.
Tampa. Yeah. So I also had a Tampa game. That's really funny. So Toronto versus Tampa. That was on Saturday. Marner extended his streak. Everyone was so excited, and then they lost in overtime.
As the Leafs do.
So they had their cake and didn't eat it.
You felt so bad, because they talked to Marner after the game, and he just looks so down, because it's supposed to be this big celebration, and it's just like, well, at least what did they do the next 2 games? Back-to-back shutouts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to...
That's how you do it, right? That's how you come back from a loss on a record-breaking game. Well,
and the other thing, too, is with that game, it going to overtime and it being the rematch of round 1, it was going to be a good game. It should be a close game every single time, and it was. It was a solid game, and then you go into 3-on-3, which doesn't exist in the playoffs.
Yep.
So
And the Leafs
that
struggle with it.
situation wouldn't exist, plain and simple. So, you never know with it. And then they come back and say, you know what, we can still win games. We can still prove it. And they went up against Dallas and proved that they could win and shut them out, which is awesome. So that was my pick. I thought it was a pretty solid game. I
Yep.
wouldn't say it was the best game of the week, but it was still a hell of a game to watch.
We chose good games. We didn't choose the best. But, I mean, we're not always going to pick 17-goal games. It's rare that you manage to pick that one out through a list.
Yeah.
We know for a fact that we do not have the same game this time because your two potentials were on different days than me. Let's start with yours, Pat.
Oh, okay. We're starting different.
Well, since I know I won't have the same one.
True. Mine is a Saturday night game. It is at 10 p.m. I'm sorry, everyone. So Saturday, December 10th, it is Minnesota versus Vancouver. So we talked about Vancouver. They're on a little bit of a heater, and everyone's like, when is the sky going to fall? So is it against Minnesota, who is pretty close in the numbers? This should be a really good game because, one, Minnesota, they don't want to lose. So they're going to be going all out. There will be at least 2 injuries this game. Come on. Jordan Greenway on the ice, he's going to go for the bone. So Minnesota, they're struggling. They have really good talent with Kirill Kaprizov and, I don't know, Fleury.
Spurgeon's actually having a really good year.
Yeah. And then you have Vancouver, who's been playing really, really well, and they want to keep this going. And this is a really important game for them to win. I think this is going to be a bit of a bloodbath.
Okay. Can we quantify when you say really well? Because they've given up. They lost a game in which they had a 4-goal lead. They almost lost a game in which they had a 3-goal lead. They almost lost a game in which they had a 2-goal lead. So they're getting wins. They're not playing well. There's a big difference.
They're winning games.
And that's the difference.
Which is playing well. Because they're finding ways to win a game. Yeah. I'm not saying they're playing great. I'm saying they're playing well.
Because of the player that they're going to trade away.
Who cares?
Yeah.
They're still playing well at this point in time. So with all that being said and done, I think this will be a really solid game. Unfortunately, it's at 10 p.m. because it's Vancouver. But if you're able to stay up and watch it, I'm willing to bet this is going to be a shell show. I just feel like we're going to be seeing at least 7 goals in this game. So, yeah.
And no matter how much Vancouver goes up by, the game isn't over at all, which is fun. Or how many they go down by.
Yeah, so if you're a Vancouver fan, I really, really am sorry for how stressed you must be every single time they play a game because you don't know what's going to happen, even if they have like a 6-goal lead.
That'd be like the Leafs-Detroit game from last year when everybody on the Leafs had the poops. We will jump to mine. We'll let Pat see if he can guess which one it is on Monday. There are, 6 games on Monday. The only clue I will give you is I did not pick the Wild, so we do not have a mirror again for this week.
I swear, if you chose New Jersey versus New York, okay. I was going to say, come on, man.
No. If I'm going to pick a Devils game, it's going to be against a better team than not saying the Rangers are bad. They just aren't getting otherworldly goaltending right now, and it's showing. And the cracks are starting to show.
This is a wild
I'm not picking
matchup day. Like, you've got Calgary, Montreal, who are currently sitting at 13 wins each. You've got Dallas, Pittsburgh, who are currently sitting at 14 wins each. Anaheim, Ottawa, which obviously they're not doing great, but like 7-10. Minnesota and Edmonton, 15-13. Nashville, St. Louis, 12-12. What a great pairing. I think you went with Dallas, Pittsburgh.
Yes, good
there
guess.
You go.
That is my game of the week. Just the way that Dallas plays, and both teams are on the up and up, and it will be interesting because if Jason Robertson has a game where he just decides that he wants to score like crazy, there's a player on Pittsburgh that can show him, yeah, no, I'm still better than you are. And Crosby likes to show up a lot more in games like that. So it should be a fun game. Pittsburgh's getting goaltending. We obviously know Dallas probably has, even though he's probably still not back to 100%, probably the best goaltender in the league right now, and Otter. So, yeah, unexpectedly, Monday night has 5 really good games of hockey, and then one
Tuesday.
that could be Monday.
You said I wrote the day down wrong. Sorry.
And then one
Monday.
game that features the Ducks and the Senators. So who knows what will happen there? Maybe
Well, that could also be a poop show. So
there could be like 3 Michigan goals, and 2 of them will get called back because we've already had one of those called back this year. So that's my game of the week. I can honestly say I will not be watching that one because I will be watching the game that's below it on the schedule because it's New York against New Jersey, and that is always a fun time. I think if the Rangers were closer in the win count to the Devils, that would be the easy pick. But every single one of those games, it's a fun one. I just think that Pittsburgh killing it lately, and Dallas, who's looking to stay atop in the West, should be a fun one. So,
yeah,
games of the week.
Woo! No, I think both of those will be pretty decent. I like that we don't have matching ones. I think it's been a bit since we had those 2 teams too.
Well, as I said, I'm trying to be better than last year when I picked a lot of I kind of cycled through a lot of the same teams.
I think I did too.
So trying to
the
get
other one.
Trying to
the
get
other one I
want to
say, I think it's on Monday, and I know I'm cheating on this one. No, it's on Sunday. Sorry, at 8:00, Boston versus Vegas.
I looked at that and I was like, I think everybody knows what is it? Just before Christmas or just after Christmas, Boston and New Jersey finally meet, and they play 2 games within very close proximity. That will, as long as both teams are still winning, has to de facto be like the games of the year potentially.
Yeah, those will be really good. And yeah, Vegas Boston, honestly, I think that could be potentially a cup final matchup.
Friday, December 23rd, Devils play Boston. Wednesday, December 28th, Devils play Boston. So
too bad we're going to be watching World Juniors.
Well, the fun thing with that is World Juniors start at a little bit of an earlier time because they're out east, so they're on funky time. So it'll be fun that way. I think that's all we've got. We went longer on this episode than what we wanted to. Looking at the time, I'm going, uh-oh. So, anything you would like to...
We did have to start it twice, so...
Okay, we only lost 6 minutes.
What?
Anything to add, Pat, before we go?
No, not really.
Okay.
I just have the Video Game Awards beside me, and I'm just waiting to see if they're going to announce anything fun. Hades, too. That's exciting. So.
Oh, cool. Okay, well,
Yeah.
say bye, Pat.
Bye, Pat.